Hi there. So today I'll be reading Goosebumps, Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls, Chapter 1. Chapter 1. My hometown. My name is Spencer, and I live in a small town called Highgrave. If you lived in Highgrave, you would know how it got its name. You see, an old graveyard stands high in the hill of the looks of the town. You can get the graveyard from just about anywhere. You can see the graveyard from just about anywhere. From Main Street, from my class room, I can even see it from my bedroom window. If you live in Highgrave, you can't escape the graveyard. Even the sunset days aren't really sunny. Here, Highgrave Hill casts a deep shadow over the roads, the buildings, and the treetops down below. On the clear days, you can look up and see the old gravestones on the top of the hill. They gleam like crooked teeth. And tall, green grass. At night, when a moon hangs low over the hill, the graveyard becomes a frightening place. A eerie gray mist clings the hill, and the gravestones appear to float free. Yes, the old tombstone seems to float by themselves, to float over the shimmering mist, to float over the town, over my house at the bottom of the Highgrave Hill. I guess that's why I have the nightmares. I cleared my throat and lowered the pages of my essay to my side. Reading a paper in front of the whole class makes me really nervous. My throat felt as dry as sandpaper, and my hands were so wet they smeared the ink on the pages. Very good writing, Mrs. Webster said, nodding. She had her hands clasped tightly to her desk. Good, Spencer. Don't you agree, class? A few kids muttered, yes. My friend Audrey Russens smiled and flashed me a thumbs up behind her. Frank Foreman yawned really loudly. That caused the pal buddy Tanner to burst out laughing. A few other kids laughed too. Mrs. Webster narrowed her eyes at Frank. Then she stuttered back to me. Go on. Read the rest, Spencer. I glanced at the big clock above the chalkboard behind her. Are you sure there's time? The next part of the paper was kind of personal, kind of embarrassing. I knew it would probably give Frank and Buddy a good laugh. Like the last paper I had to read to the class, I wrote about the only thing in the world that terrifies me: spiders. Frank's and Buddy's never let me forget that paper. After I read it, I found a spider in my desk every morning for a month. Read until the bell, Miss Webster insisted. I cleared my throat again and started reading. Some nights I dream about the graveyard ghouls. Everyone is my family dreamers about them. One night, my 8-year-old brother Jason woke up screaming, They're coming to get me. It took a long time to convince Jason it was just a dream. My little brother and sister, Remy and Charlotte, also had nightmares about the graveyard ghouls. and I dream that the ghouls rise up from their old graves and they float down the hill. They float into the foggy mist on the side of the hill and wait. They're hiding, waiting for innocent victims to come by. And then the ghouls swarm around their victims, sweep around them, wispy the fog, and pull them up into the old graves at the top of the hill. Everyone at the high grave knows about. Very good. Mrs. Webster interrupted. She clapped her hands enthusiastically. Very good writing, Spencer. Audrey, oh my goodness. Cough. Audrey shot me a big smile behind her. Frank and my buddy were giggling about something. They slapped each other on the high five. Do you think you might want to be a writer when you grow up? Mrs. Webster asked me. I could feel my face turn hot. I don't know, I stubborn. Maybe. I heard Frank mimic me in a high, shrill voice. Buddy burst out laughing again. Frank, would you like to read your paper next? Mrs. Webster demanded. Frank mouth dropped open. Well, it isn't quite finished. Mrs. Webster leaned over her desk. What is your essay about? She asked. Frank hesitated. Then he finally replied, I'm not sure. The whole class broke up laughing. Frank tried to keep his straight face, but he laughed too. Mrs. Webster shook her head. I don't think it's funny, she murmured. She turned back to me. Finish reading your piece, Spencer. Maybe you'll impress Frank. Frank let out a loud groan. Miss Webster ignored him and motioned for me to read. Why can't I be cool like Frank and Buddy? I asked myself. They are total goose. They never do any work at all. They spend the whole day laughing and talking and messing around. And everyone likes them. Everyone thinks they are the coolest guys in school. I want to be cool too. I want to make kids laugh. I don't want to be standing up here having the teacher tell me what a goody I am. Asking me to the front everybody if I want to be a writer. How totally uncool can I be? I glanced at Frank, even though he sat toward the back of the room. I could see him clearly, his head toward over all the others. Frank is a big, strong, muscular guy. I'm short and kind of scrawny, and I wear glasses. That's what I am, I thought. A screaming goody. I could feel my face growing hot again. I erased the pages in front of my face and continued reading. Everyone is in High Grave knows about the graveyard ghouls. Some kids told me about them on the day that my family moved here. They said that the dead people buried in the high graveyard can't rest. They can't rest because the graveyard is up too high. The dead have become restless, angry ghouls, rotting and decayed. They climb out of their graves. They cannot sleep. They can only pace the graveyard, look down on the houses below. At night, their howls and moans float over the town. If you really closely, you can see the ghouls. You can see them shuffling through the fog that rolls low over the hill. And if you go up there at night, the ghouls The bell rang. Book slammed shut. Kids cheered. Thank you, Spencer. Sorry we couldn't finish. But Oh, I'm sorry. But that was excellent. Miss Webster jumped to her feet. But everyone, that's all for today. She had a shout over the loud voices and scrapped chairs, but Spencer has given me a really good idea. Miss Webster called out. The room grew quieter. Tomorrow, pack a lunch and work in your hiking boots. Miss Webster instructed. Tomorrow, we're all going to climb up to the graveyard. Huh? Why? Someone called out. Our teacher's eyes flashed. To summon the ghouls, she replied. We can go to chapter 2 next time, and I'll be reading it before I take a video, because my first time reading aloud to a camera. So next time I read it, it would be better, more pronounced words. Yeah. Bye.